Hey viewers, welcome to another game of Casual Pro Gamer. Today we're doing a game 2 of Maru versus Hero, and Maru is in the bottom left corner, whereas Hero is in the top left corner. So relatively close spawns, not cross map at least, but it is of course dependent a little bit on the scouting patterns of whether or not you can do something in the early game, because if you don't, then, well, if you don't spot your opponent, it's very hard to rush them. So, yeah, I'm assuming that doesn't come into play in a 4-player map. But, well, you never know. These guys might actually surprise me once again. Yeah. Anyway, this is a best of 5. As I said, this is game number 2. And, well, at least one more game to play, right? I'm not going to spoil who won game 1. I don't feel like doing that. So you're just going to have to watch game 1 for yourself if you want to know. And, well, it doesn't really matter. So anyway, we are going to just watch them build some supply depots and pylons and things like that. And then finally go into the structures that actually matter. Of course, early game is mostly there for people to be able to rush. And for the rest, it's just a bunch of boredom. Because if people play standard games, like they don't want to rush anything, then yeah, this is always the same. And that's a shame, but that is the way it goes. We are going to build something here. It is going to be a command center for a player map, so it kind of makes sense that you want to go for an early expand here. Both players doing that because, well, the chances of getting rushed on a 4-player map are just very, very low. Of course, if you can actually manage to build a rush and find your opponent in the, well, in the super early game, you can definitely, well, produce something very nice. Because, yeah, as you can see, barracks going down just now. So if you send out, for example, I'm not saying it's a good tactic, but if you send out 2 probes to the corners, the closest corners, then you can cannon rush people if you wanted to. And assuming people are going to go for this early command center before barracks, then you can definitely rush them out of, well, the entire game. I mean, there's just nothing you can do against that if you spot them, well, early enough. Of course, you do lose quite a lot of economy for that, and that's always the problem with the rush. But yeah, that's why we see, at least in the pro games, we see mostly just standard games. 2 barracks coming up just to catch up with whatever the Protoss is doing. And that means that you're going to be able to produce twice the amount of SCVs here. You're also going to be able to produce twice the amount of Marines because of your economy. And so your window to act against this ends at like 5 minutes. So once you reach the 4.5–5 minute mark, the amount of Marines and such is going to be equal to what it would otherwise have been if you went barracks first. And, well, at that point, there's really nothing you can do about it. So they just have a better economy, and yeah, nothing you can do about it. So that's why we see these early expands from both sides so often in these high-level games, because really there's no reason to go for a more, well, extreme strategy. But yeah, so I'm assuming once again that he's going to build Marines in the early game and then Marauders in the late game, because Marauders are so good against anything that's not a Zealot. And as long as you have a few Marines to deal with the Zealots, the Marauders can basically kill anything else. And that is just the way it is. Of course, if you overbuild on Marauders, or rather underbuild on Marines, you are actually vulnerable to air units. So yeah, they are going to meet each other here, which means that they know now where both of the bases are. Stalker is going to come in just to see what's up. And this Marine might actually get picked off as well. No, it's going the complete other direction. Yeah. Okay, so just taking the watchtower. He might actually get the other watchtower then? I really don't know. How did he not see that his opponent was in the top left? That is just... Or rather... this is, of course, our Protoss player. Yeah, how did he not see that that Marine was coming from the bottom left? I guess he might have guessed that that Marine had gone through the entire map or something. But yeah, at least now he knows. So I don't know where that Marine went. The blue is very hard to spot on the map. Only if it's in big blocks, then it's kind of easy. I think I can switch that with one of the buttons. Whatever. I don't know. Seems that we are going to just build some engineering bay here, so upgrades are going to come up. For the rest, it's just the standard stuff. Lots of Marines and Marauders. He's now going to go into a factory just to have some support tanks, I'm assuming. But we'll see, we'll see. Here on the Protoss base, well, that is where the gateways are going to start. Lots of gateways, robotic facility, well, just building everything at the same time. And actually, Twilight Council coming up, so you might go for some Blink here, which would make sense. Going for Stalkers with Blink is always very, very nice against virtually anything. So if you can micro them perfectly, they can deal with any composition, well, at all. Because, well, they can retreat when they get low and they can still shoot at some of the units, although not the units that actually focus them in the beginning. So unless you have perfect focus, working against Blink Stalkers is super hard to do. So another base coming up here for our Protoss player. That is relatively greedy. He does have 2 sentries out, but I don't think that he has any other gateway units. So he can of course warp in some more. There goes the warp in. Oh no, never mind. I was looking at the wrong tab. No, not warping in anything it seems. Just holding his position, just scouting around what the Terran player is doing. He does see this this army, and he might actually be like, okay, I can handle it. I can handle that with just a few warp-ins. The Marine and Marauder army, as you can see, about 50-50 on the firepower on both sides. Yeah, it is going to be hard to defeat without, well, units. But he does have a Colossus out, and Colossus do so well against the Marines. So, of course, with this many Marauders out, he needs to worry about those as well. And the Stalkers are pretty good against the Marauders, but the Marauders are also good against the Stalkers. Because they get 4 extra damage, whereas which is 40% more, which does not suck at all. But these guys get double damage, so 100% more damage against armored. And that is just so punishing. And yeah, just takes out the Stalkers in no time at all. So he does need to work on his other units. No, he's just going for Colossus. A few Immortals wouldn't go amiss in this because, well, look at the amount of Marauders that are here. The Immortals would do very well against them. He's going to go for a drop now, as well as, well, kind of just a frontal door. Just knock on the front door, see what's up, and yeah, there is the army. He sees that there are 3 Colossi out, and especially with the scan now, he sees the entire army composition. 3 sentries as well. They're not going to be super useful anymore, although they don't suck. But yeah, well, on open terrain, having sentries is not nearly as good as near these little, well, hallways, I would call them. So is he going to warp in? That is the big question. Definitely something that the Terran player is worried about, because the warp prism might be full of units and just warp in more units, and that would immediately be a lot of damage. In the meantime, in the mid of the map, we are going to push with the Stalkers, and the Stalkers plus the Colossi should be able to pick off this this army pretty well. So many units. I guess greed is good in this game every now and then, because he did get greedy by building yet another base, and yeah, that economy that he got from that does allow him to do just this. The, well, insane amount of units that he gets out early game. And more Stalkers coming in. Sorry, not Stalkers. Zealots. More Zealots coming in. They are going to be just, well, frontline fodder. So they're going to go up in the front lines, trying to deal with those Marines and Marauders just to keep them back, and the Stalkers in the meantime are going to do all the damage. Blinks forward actually into the new the newly spawned Marauders there, so that might actually not be too good. But for now, yeah, both armies dwindling down, but it seems that the Colossi, because they're still alive, do so much damage. Look at that, 16 kills, 12 kills. That is just, that's insanity. So many of them. Yeah, just so many, so many deaths just to that Colossus. And, well, of course now the force fields come in handy, because he's trying to keep them away from his Colossus. So yeah, as I said, force fields never suck. They're just not as good in the open field as they would be otherwise. So Zealot's relatively cheap, so yeah, you can run them in and lose a few, just if you get some damage done. So even if you snipe, like, on average, one Marine with them, that would be fine, because the Stalkers in the meantime can do their damage, and they will not be attacked by the Marauders and the Marines. And Marauders, of course, very bad against the Zealots. So yeah, they don't do extra damage, and you kind of count on that extra damage to do something. The command center went down. Well, I'm assuming you saw that, because that was right in the middle of the screen. So yeah, this time the push just completely annihilates this. Just so many Blink Stalkers, and as I said, Blink Stalkers are really hard to deal with. But he didn't use the Blink to actually get out of the range of the Marines and such, the Marauders. He just used it to, well, keep his army close to the Marines and the Marauders, so that he could actually shoot them down. Very nicely played, very simple strategy, I would have to say. Not a lot of very intense micro, but just building up an army and, well, having a bigger army than your opponent. Well, 3 bases versus 2 bases will do that, because, well, most of this hasn't even been touched. But very nicely done. Anyway, hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time. GG.